Alright. Well, what's up, guys? It's been a while since I've done another one of these rant videos. Apparently, you guys have actually been wanting to see one. And I like making these. They're not terribly difficult to make, and I usually have something to talk about. And today, I decided I wanted to talk about bullshit that happens in high schools. Now, I'm not going to be all inclusive here because there is so much that goes on in high school in general that I really can't talk about everything. So what I'm going to be focusing more on is just like some of the more common stuff that I like can talk about without going too much detail in. So before I start, a couple of disclaimers. First, I have not really personally experienced everything that I'm going to talk about in this video because, well, it's because I haven't, and someone decides that now is a good time to. Oh my god, I'm in the recording booth, and I set myself to do not disturb. Okay, whatever. I have not experienced the effects of everything that I'm talking about here. I do not have personal experiences with everything that I say. That being said, I do have some secondhand experience with stuff like this. That's what I'm going to be going off of, and I've also done a little bit of research. Stuff that a high schooler definitely knows about, through not necessarily through like I said, personal experience, but through secondhand experience as well. Second, I'm talking about public American schools. I'm not talking about European or Australian schools because I'm sure those operate differently. And I'm not talking about private schools because that's on a whole different level of shit. And that's especially prevalent when I go to talk about the dress codes. That being started, let's begin. Now, a lot of my opinions on how a high school should be, or like how school should go, comes from the fact that I'm in college now. I am treated as an adult in college. I don't have to worry about my personal misconduct having really stupid consequences. I guess I could say that, or maybe like my not so misconduct won't have any unintended consequences. But when when I'm in college, because I'm in college, stuff like violence is treated by a criminal offense because I'm 18 years old. But in high school, you have what is called a zero tolerance policy. And this policy basically states that certain offenses that happen within a school must be punished with at least this. And the best example I can give of zero tolerance is fighting. Obviously, high schoolers, testosterone-filled high schoolers aren't perfect in this regard. They're not always friendly or diplomatic. Sometimes fights break out for various reasons. Some good reasons, quote-unquote good reasons, some blatantly stupid reasons. But what I have a problem with zero tolerance fighting, the number one problem I have with it is that the victim of the fight, which is the person who is like being punched first, is always punished if they try to defend themselves in any way. If they so much as to lay a finger on the assailant, they are guaranteed a minimum of 3 days suspension. At least that's how it is in my high school, and that's fucking bullshit. If you're being attacked by a large high school student, you're in the hallways. Running away from him is dangerous not only to yourself, but to everyone around you that could be inside of that hallway. So, and if you're in a classroom, you can't run away at all. There's somewhere to go. So, what are you going to do? Just sit there and be punched over and over again? It doesn't really... Because if he decides to punch you more than once, he's going to punch you more than once. You might as well maybe not be punched. But, like, you can only just sit there and matrix his punches so much, because no one's going to stop, and absolutely no one is going to just jump in and stop them. It's like it's like a policeman trying to stop serial killers on the loose. If you've heard of that one story, if you haven't seen the video on Cracked, I'll actually leave a description in the video, or a link in the description of the video, of stories where someone is being like assaulted with a knife and the police that are sitting right there don't go to help them. It's like that. It's like that. No one's gonna like come to your rescue. You're on your own most of the time. Everyone's gonna circle around you and watch and probably scream, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" But I definitely held the firm belief, and this definitely applies to like the juries and stuff as well. Because if you're being tried for assault because you defended yourself, well, first of all, you can murder someone in self-defense and get away with it. I think hitting back and causing a boo-boo is not necessarily too big of an issue. But I believe that if you fight back within reason, like if he scratches you and you break his nose and then keep on kicking him in the shins, maybe that's a little bit overkill. But if you're at least just meeting his force, that's justified. You can defend yourself. You can prevent yourself from having to go to the hospital and maybe cause him to go to the hospital instead. And if the person who is about to hit you has some sort of weapon that could seriously injure you, at that point, I would just hit them first. Because if they intend on hurting you, they can seriously do some damage with a freshly sharpened pencil. I wouldn't want those jammed into my esophagus. So, but it's not always just actual physical violence that gets punished with this policy too. I've been at the ass end of harmless playing with finger guns being subjected to suspensions because apparently that means I'm going to shoot up the school. Like, that's actually their logic. Like, oh, you couldn't possibly be like playing around with your friends by using finger guns and going pew pew pew. No, you definitely plan on shooting up the school, and you need to be punished and beaten into submission. And I'm playing, but yeah, I've been suspended over this, and it is the stupidest thing. Why does this exist? It's not harming anyone unless you're interrupting class going pew pew pew, at which case you're interrupting class. That's interrupting class. You're not shooting people. You have probably no intentions of shooting people. 99% of people who just go pew 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 are not actually going to go pew pew pew. But for some reason they feel the need to suppress everyone from doing so in like the gym locker room, because apparently that's dangerous to point your finger at people. And I think what is even stupider is the zero tolerance policy of surrounding profanity. If I call someone an asshole because they said something about my mom, well, I just said the word assholes, therefore I deserve to get suspended. I've once had someone harassing me or something along the lines of that. I can't remember exactly what happened, and then I called them a fucking asshole. And the vice president at the time, who actually later became the president or principal, the vice principal who later became the principal of the school, had overheard me saying that and threatened me with a 3 days suspension. I'm like, don't you think that's a little ridiculous? Like, okay, I won't say it again. I'm sorry, but don't you think a 3 day suspension is a little bit too much? It's not fun. It's actually stupid. Like, if you're using like profanity in a derogatory way towards someone, that's harassment. But if you and like in the same way that's like calling someone an asshole is like calling someone like a douchebag or calling someone mean, I guess. But if you call someone a faggot, yeah, you kind of deserve it. But that's beside the point, I guess. I'm glad I'm not trying to monetize this video. But what I think is even stupider than zero tolerance has probably got to be the detention policy. What is the deal with detentions? Like, you sit in a room for an hour because you did something wrong. Don't you? First of all, teachers For such a minute punishment, teachers can give out punishments for basically any really stupid reason, like, oh, you talked back to me in class because you said that 2 plus 2 is actually 4 and not 5. How dare you? You detention. A little bit of an exaggeration there, but you get the point that teachers aren't afraid to whip out this punishment knowing that the student isn't going to be overly isn't going to be suspended over doing something, because then they risk their job because a student is missing work because or missing school because they did something incredibly really irrelevant. Sorry about that. So they have this thing called the detention. And second of all, this is extremely unfair, not only to the parent that has to magically run their ass over to pick up the kid from detention because they did something minorly stupid, or this kid has to walk home if they're close enough to do that. It's unfair for the parent that is subjected to this, that because their child did something really stupid or stupidly minor, that they had to be given a detention, that they had to run out and grab their child, especially since the parent is likely going to punish the child anyways. Like, if you're being insubordinate to your teacher and the teacher tells your mom, well, not only are you giving the child a detention, but they're going to go home to be subjected to detention, basically, in the form of a grounding. Like, what's the point? They're just going to be punished anyways. And if the parents decides not to punish their child, well, that's their decision. They have made the determination that it was a minor mistake, that being grounded isn't necessary. Well, it's not up. I don't believe that it should be up to the school to subject the child to a punishment that was not agreed upon by the parent. If what I agree with in the situations where a detention would normally be handed out, to just kick them out of the classroom for the rest of the hour, for the rest of the period, and just call home and tell them what happened, and just leave it at that, and then tell them to go to their next class when it begins. I think that is all that really needs to be done. Nothing special. You don't need to hold the child after school because of this. Calls home, and if this is a major transgression, the child tell the teacher to go fuck their nigger faggot ass, then a suspension would be, I mean, I guess that would be harassment enough so that a suspension would be probably warranted, just for a day, or maybe just you can't come to this class tomorrow. I don't feel the need to hold the student after class when they're obviously going to be punished at home anyway. And besides that, it also gives a lot of power to the individual teacher, like I said earlier, because they can always write up someone for doing anything, and the principal's not going to veto the punishment. They're not going to say, you know what, we're not going to give you the detention even though you were written up, because I remember back in high school that I was actually written up for a complete bullshit reason. I don't remember exactly what, and the principal actually agreed with me, but said that they didn't have the authority to remove any punishment unless the teacher themselves decided to revoke the write-up, and they didn't. So, whatever. I guess that's based on high school. Maybe the policy is a little different elsewhere, but that's just my personal experience. And I think the last thing I should talk about when it comes to discipline would be dress codes. Dress codes is something that I, for the most part, agree with. I don't think anyone has the right to be walking around in a school environment with their underwear. That's extremely distracting and erotic. But at the same time, there are some aspects of common dress code aspects that are really redundant and stupid and don't help. like hats. You can't wear hats in class. Like I can understand if it's like a silly spinny hat that's constantly like distracting. I get that maybe, but a baseball cap or a beanie, what is that gonna do? Like if their ears are cold that they need to wear a beanie, well they would just be like rubbing their hands and then covering their ears. That would be a little more distracting than just wearing a fucking hat. And if it's a baseball cap, who cares? People wear baseball caps. How is that disrupting the school environment in any way? How is that hurting anyone? What is even the purpose of banning hats in schools? I don't get it. It's not a problem. Why are people pretending like it is? All right. I think secondly, any public school that has school uniforms, that's absolutely retarded. Because at that point, you have to wear the same bland. Everyone's wearing the same bland thing every day for 5 days a week. You have to wash the same 2, 3 clothes over and over again. That it's just dumb. Like, what are they trying to look like a military camp or something? It's not. You're not trying to appeal to a higher government that says, "Oh, well, look at how disciplined these children are. They're wearing the same thing, even though they're calling each other mean things and fighting and stuff. But they're wearing all the same things. They're awesome." And I'm sure that many people who have actually gone to high school, they're like, I've heard stories that of like one of my online friends can't wear like at one point graphic tees with words on them were banned. Like, are you serious? That first of all, you what are you facing their front? Is that what it is? Because I don't know. That just seems ridiculous to me. My high school, my high school dress code was just fine. There was, other than the hats thing, couldn't wear hats, couldn't wear sunglasses, whatever. It's kind of stupid, but I've never really owned a hat, so it didn't affect me too much. But I just thought that was stupid. Moving on, I think that the way high schools handle the education of the students is absolutely stupid at times. I come from, like I said, college, where the professor, like, they know that they give a reasonable amount of homework to the college student, and as long as the college student has any interest in actually doing the homework, that they're going to do it and they're going to learn from it. If they give too little, then they don't have any material to practice on, and if they give too much, they're just wasting the student's time, and it's going to make them less likely to do their homework. That being said, high school teachers don't really have seemed to get the hint. Well, I say high school teachers, but sometimes it's not exactly their fault. Sometimes there is a curriculum that states that they have to give a certain amount of homework for this specific thing. But this is, I'm accusing them both of this right now. I'm accusing the teachers that decide that these are a good idea, and the curriculum makers that also agree that this is a good idea, because it's not. It's stupid. It's redundant. Multiple assignments for the same overarching subject, like for the same sub subject, like for the same, I guess, idea. It like the first 3 times I did my multiplication tables, I got the fucking point. You don't make me do like 70 of them. Like, I know I'm using a very juvenile example here, but like I guess like if I had to like take home like 5 worksheets of factoring would probably be a better example. Like, having to do 5 worksheets isn't really going to make me understand it much better than if I just did 1, because you have to understand that there are diminishing returns on doing more and more homework to get it. Like, at this point, you're like, if I got the idea from the first worksheet, then me doing the other 4 is just wasting my fucking time. And if I didn't get the idea from the first time, then maybe I shouldn't be doing homework. Maybe I should be asking for help instead. That it's just it's dumb. I also hate when they people give an assignment for each individual tiny simple instruction, not instruction, concept, I guess. Like, okay, well, you see, you can square things. Now, here's a worksheet on squaring things. Oh, you can cube things. Here's a worksheet where you can cube things. Oh, you can quartz things. You can raise things to the power of 4. Why do these need to be separate worksheets? Just make one. Make one. It just creates more work. I also hate when the assignments are unnecessarily large. Like, yeah, maybe I only have one worksheet of factoring, but if it's 150 fucking questions, you're wasting my time. You have to consider that the diminishing return also applies to each individual question, but whatever. Just like, and this also goes, this isn't just math that I'm talking about. If you try to give me a 700 page book, like a book assignment, what do they? Book report on a poem, whatever. But that's what I think about that. So sometimes this is, like I said, sometimes this is the fault of the curriculum, but sometimes each individual teacher actually like assigns more than normal and defends it. Like, oh, we're helping the students learn. No, you're fucking not. You're wasting their time. Also, stop. Okay, I forgot to write this down, but stop giving assignments over breaks. Just stop. Like, college professors don't do this shit. They know you want to have the break to yourself, and they know they want to have the break to themselves. They are not doing any work over break, therefore they do not expect you to do any work over break. And if you're one of those cunt teachers that decides, I'm going to give all of my students a 200-page paper to write over Christmas break while I sit here doing fuck all, fuck you. Like, seriously, no one likes you. But, yeah. That pisses me off too. Like, it's not something I've extensively had to deal with, but I've like met people who have had to do ridiculously long assignments over winter break, which is like, why? Anyway, and this goes for the treatments of students altogether. Students as a whole don't really have any protection against anything that could happen. Like, if the teacher decides to make a stupid decision, the teacher's always right because they're an adult and the student's the student. They don't really have any say in anything unless the biased judge decides they're biased. And the school as a whole, the system as a whole, just sits there on their lounge chair and contemplates why students act like children when they're not being treated as adults. Okay. I think one of the dumbest things I've had to deal with in all of high school when it came to assignments is group assignments. Oh my fucking god. It's like no high school teacher knew how to actually go about this in a proper manner. They just kind of did the same thing. Oh, let me just randomize the groups. It doesn't matter if an A student is getting paired with a D student. It's all RNG, so it's fair. You know, I'll offer absolutely no protection to anyone who's doing the work. It's just like, oh, well, I'll let you guys do it, figure it out amongst yourselves, improve your teamwork skills, and if someone in your team is being a lazy piece of shit, oh well, guess you gotta have to do their work or else you're gonna get a low grade. And that's the worst, when you're paired up with some lazy fuckwad that doesn't do any work, so that you have to do their part of the work too, just so you don't get a C plus on an assignment when you normally get A minuses. And these group assignments are often worth large parts of grades. So when you sit here and tell me that, oh, well, it's fair because you all split the work evenly. No, it doesn't fucking work like that. It's stupid. Oh, and the assignments themselves often suck to do as well. I don't know why. I just noticed the trend that no high school teachers can seem to make a goddamn enjoyable group project. I think the only exception to this being my computers class, but that's just because I got to choose my team and we had a very creative project to do. But I might show that to people one day. I think I still have it lying around. Also, a couple of minor gripes when it comes to teachers. Why the fuck do elective teachers preach their class as if it's the fucking holy grail? Why do elective teachers say, this is an elective, but this is more important than a core class because X, Y, and Z, and if you don't work hard in this class, you're a piece of shit, and whatever. That annoys me. Like, I had like a connections in mathematics class, which was the stupidest thing I've ever taken, but I had to take it because I needed an elective math class. And the teacher acted like it was the most important thing I would have ever learned in my life. Like, oh hey, this scene in Willy Wonka is inspired by the Fibonacci sequence or whatever. Why the fuck do I need to know this? It's not going to help me in real life. It's just not. Now, if this was like a personal finance class, which I've also taken it as an elective of, and they treat this as if it's super important, and it fucking is, then I see that. But if they're teaching some really stupid elective like history through media, shut up. And I'm going to mention this briefly because I know this this episode wouldn't really be complete without at least mentioning this, since I did kind of mention electives. Core classes that don't help you in life, they fucking suck. They're stupid. They're ridiculous. Why do I need to learn how to literally analyze? Maybe I need to. Why do I need literary analysis in my curriculum when I'm a computer science major? 99% of the majors that you're going to go to college for do not require literary analysis, and colleges are guilty of this too. Doesn't exclude them, but at least college you can switch that out for another English course, which isn't much better. But why the fuck do I need to know the great works of William Shakespeare to tell a computer to do the Harlem Shake? I don't know. This same goes to many like world history and some of the sciences like biology, chemistry, and fucking earth science. God damn it. But I don't want to go into the specifics of why I think those are stupid. I'll save that for another video. But like that's just kind of like the 2%, the 1% skim version. I wanted to say 2% skim, but it's like not that different from whole milk. And lastly, I think one of the worst things about the high school is actually the cafeteria. God fucking damn it. It's like I get shafted every single day. You're expecting me to pay $5 for a slice of pizza and green beans that you dragged out of a can and baked for 2 minutes? Are you fucking serious? No, thank you. And you want me to pay an extra 50 fucking cents for a milk carton that cost you 2? Whatever. And it seems that there's like no real good structure when it comes to the order in which people get their food. It's like it's almost always they call like a specific gender first to go up and get their food, and then they call the other gender. Like I know that sounds completely not politically correct, but it is actually the way that they did it, and no one cared because it's fucking 2018. We can get over the whole, but I'm a Apache attack helicopter. How dare you? I'm triggered. No one does that. It's stupid. But I think the fact that like at certain points, certain days, people have to get their lunches last, which means that they often have less than 10 minutes to actually eat everything, so they can't talk to their friends at all, which is a little sad. And they kill themselves because they're lonely, I guess. Oh my god. This got dark real quickly. But, yeah. Oh shit, I think that covers everything. Well, then not everything. I'm pretty sure I missed a bunch of things when it comes to stupid shit that high schools do. But that's the extent of what I'm going to talk about in this video. Leave a comment down below saying anything that I didn't talk about that you had to deal with in high school. I'd love to hear it. And if you like this video, please like the video so I know you like the video. Like that actually helps me. But yeah. Um yeah, this is Enternode signing out of Audacity.